You know that icy, stomach-dropping moment when someone realizes the doors they slammed on the way out might not swing open on the way back in? That's the storm swirling around Meghan Markle right now. A story dripping with tension, pride, and the kind of high society fallout nobody wants to admit is happening. Word on the gossip circuit is that a quiet return to the United Kingdom was supposed to be low-key. No grand arrivals, no dramatic walk past flashing cameras. Just a discreet touchdown, a composed face, and a re-entry that would whisper, not shout. But whispers have a funny way of turning into sirens when the past is still echoing. Instead of a smooth glide back into familiar territory, the atmosphere reportedly felt stiff. Observers claim there was an awkward pause, a procedural delay, the kind that might be routine for anyone else but feels loaded when it involves someone whose exit from royal life detonated headlines worldwide. Nothing officially dramatic, no public scene, just a vibe. And sometimes vibes speak louder than statements. Because here's the emotional undercurrent nobody can ignore. This is the same woman who once described her royal experience as suffocating, who aired family tensions on global television, who helped turn palace whispers into streaming-era confessionals. You don't drop emotional grenades into an institution steeped in centuries of tradition and expect everything to feel cozy years later. History lingers, feelings calcify, optics matter, and optics are everything right now. The fairy tale chapter cracked the moment Meghan and Prince Harry stepped away from official duties and rebuilt their lives across the Atlantic. The move to Montecito wasn't just a change of address, it was a rebrand, a declaration, a neon sign flashing, "We're doing this our way." They traded palace balconies for podcast mics, royal protocols for production deals, tiaras for streaming contracts. For a while, it looked bold, daring, almost cinematic. But Hollywood love can be fickle, and the glow of disruption fades fast when audiences start craving substance over symbolism. Their headline-grabbing deal with Netflix launched with massive curiosity, but curiosity and loyalty are not the same thing. Projects arrive polished, personal, carefully curated, and reactions landed somewhere between supportive, skeptical, and brutally indifferent, depending on who you ask. The cultural conversation shifted from power couple changing the world to, are they overexposed? Faster than anyone expected. Then came the podcast chapter. The partnership with Spotify was announced with glossy promise, feminist angles, and big-name guests. But when the deal ended, the internet didn't whisper, it roared. Critics circled. Comment sections sharpened knives. Suddenly, every career move was being weighed, measured, and judged in real time. And that's where the emotional temperature around Meghan really started to change. She's no longer just a former working royal. She's a brand, a lightning rod, a symbol people project onto. Admiration, resentment, fatigue, inspiration, suspicion. Every public step now carries double meaning. A business meeting becomes a desperate pivot. A quiet visit becomes a strategic comeback. Silence becomes damage control. She can't blink without someone writing a narrative about why. Which brings us back to that reportedly frosty return moment. Whether it was routine or loaded, symbolic or overblown, the story stuck because it fits the arc too neatly. A woman who walked away on her own terms, now navigating a world that doesn't feel as pliable as it once did. It's not about airport counters or paperwork, it's about emotional borders, social borders, institutional memory. Meanwhile, the pressure behind the scenes is rumored to be intense. Not scandalous in a criminal sense. Let's be clear, there's no official evidence of legal trouble, but reputationally exhausting, advisors recalibrating, image strategies shifting, new ventures being whispered about in lifestyle, wellness, philanthropy. Each move feels like a chess piece being placed carefully because the margin for error is thinner than ever. And inside the marriage, insiders always claim to know more than they do, but one thing feels undeniable. This life is heavier than the one they left. Building an identity outside a monarchy isn't just brave, it's relentless. There's no institution absorbing criticism anymore, no palace machine redirecting heat. Every headline lands directly on them. Harry, once the spare prince with a mischievous grin, now looks more like a man carrying invisible weight. Meghan, once the Hollywood outsider stepping into royalty, now stands as the royal outsider navigating Hollywood. The roles flipped, the pressure doubled. What makes this saga so addictive is that it isn't clean. There's no simple villain, no tidy redemption arc, just two people who blew up the blueprint and are now living inside the fallout of that explosion. Some see courage, some see hubris, some see a cautionary tale about fame, power, and what happens when personal truth collides with public loyalty. So when a story surfaces about a tense moment on British soil, people don't just read it, they feel it. They project meaning onto it. They see karma, consequence, or cruelty depending on their stance. That's the real drama. Perception has become more powerful than confirmation. And Meghan, she's standing in the middle of that storm trying to move forward while half the world keeps replaying the exit she made years ago. And here's where the story stops being just about reputation and starts feeling like a slow burn identity crisis playing out in designer heels and tailored suits. Because when you step away from a centuries-old institution, you don't just leave a job, you leave a shield. Inside the palace system, there were courtiers, communications teams, traditions, conditions that acted like shock absorbers. Out here, every misstep lands raw, every lukewarm project becomes a referendum on your relevance, every delayed deal gets spun into a downfall narrative before breakfast. That's the pressure cooker Meghan is rumored to be living in now. The dream was simple on paper: freedom, influence, impact. Tell their story, control their image, build a global brand powered by authenticity and purpose. And to be fair, the launch phase worked. The interviews exploded, the documentaries trended, the world watched. But attention is a sugar rush. It spikes fast and crashes even faster. Sustaining admiration requires reinvention. And reinvention is brutal when half your audience is rooting for you and the other half is refreshing pages hoping you slip. Behind the glossy photos and carefully worded statements, there's talk of constant strategy meetings, new directions, new verticals, lifestyle, wellness, female empowerment spaces, quiet philanthropy mixed with high-visibility partnerships. It's the kind of pivot cycle startups go through. Except this startup has global tabloids live blogging every move. And the emotional toll? That's the part nobody live streams. Friends of friends whisper that Meghan is fiercely determined but also deeply frustrated. Not because opportunities don't exist, but because every opportunity comes with a storm cloud of commentary. She launches something. Critics call it performative. She stays quiet. Critics call it hiding. She speaks. Critics call it attention-seeking. It's a no-win carousel, and getting off isn't really an option when your entire post-royal life is built on being seen and heard. Harry's transformation adds another layer. He once defined himself in contrast to the royal machine, the rebellious one, the relatable one. Now he's navigating boardrooms, media deals, and California networks that operate on a completely different rulebook. The transition from prince to private citizen sounds romantic until you realize princes don't grow up negotiating production clauses and brand optics. That's learned on the fly, under a microscope. And somewhere in the middle of all this, their love story, the fairy tale that launched 1,000 headlines, is being stress-tested by reality. Not in a dramatic scandal sheet way, but in the quiet human way that happens when two people carry enormous external pressure. When every decision has financial weight, when privacy is a myth, when even a dinner out can turn into a think piece about body language. That's why stories about chilly receptions or awkward atmospheres hit so hard. They tap into a bigger fear. What if the world they left doesn't want them back and the world they ran toward isn't as welcoming as it first seemed? It's the emotional equivalent of floating between two shores, belonging fully to neither. But one truth hangs in the air like perfume after someone leaves a room. Walking away from a palace is dramatic. Building a life that lives up to that drama is even harder. And right now, every move they make feels like it's balancing on that razor-thin line between comeback and cautionary tale. And